Due to the rapid migration of the rural poor to the industrializing cities of England in the late 18th century, a trend in the opposite direction began to develop. That is, newly rich members of the middle classes began to purchase estates and villas on the outskirts of London. This trend accelerated through the 19th century, especially in cities like London and Manchester that were growing rapidly, and the first suburban districts sprung up around the city centers to accommodate those who wanted to escape the squalid conditions of the industrial towns. Toward the end of the century, with the development of public transit systems such as the underground railways, buses, and trams, it became possible for the majority of the city's population to reside outside the city and to commute into the center for work. In Southern California, by the mid-20th century, the automobile became the most popular mode of transport for the rapidly increasing population who resided further and further away from the city centers. Eventually, a new culture emerged from the single-family homes, cul-de-sacs, strip malls, and vast matrix of roads which expanded across entire river valleys from the coast to the foothills of each mountain range. This culture believed it had gained independence from the city. In truth, it was still heavily reliant upon its industrial parent for survival. The apple does not fall far from the tree. Together we'll embark on a journey to better understand the mysterious behavior exhibited by the inhabitants of the middle, the place in between, known as the suburb. In order to capture the subtle complexities of suburban culture, I, Joel Robinson, explorer and naturalist, have set up a base camp in the backyard of a tract home located in one of the numerous subdivisions of the city of Orange, in Orange County, Southern California. From this strategic location, I'll navigate a seemingly endless maze of neighborhoods designed to affect the daily activities, attitudes, and beliefs of suburban residents. Will I be able to solve this expansive labyrinth, or will I be trapped forever? There's only one way to find out. This particular tract home subdivision really caught my attention. One, it's loaded with cul-de-sacs, and two, if you notice the street sign behind me, we're at the intersection of Chumash and Juaneño, both Native American tribes from Southern California. When I went exploring the other streets in the area, they all were named after tribes, some of them not so local. So the question remains, why would they do such a thing if there's no actual evidence of these tribes left in this particular area? Just like the oversimplified and diluted history books handed out to primary school children, the neighborhoods are laid out like an amusement park's version of history. Journey from the indigenous communities of North America to the New England colonies in the blink of an eye. Wait a second. This is California, not Virginia.
On this historic day, I stand at the intersection of Jamestown and Valley Forge. Meet me at the intersection of Julie and Christine. I hope you aren't confused by this one. We're at the corner of Adams and Adams Ranch. And who's Adam, by the way? Are you getting disoriented yet? We're at Park Villa Lane and Villa Park Road. I even had trouble remembering which was which. Check out this one. This is one of my favorites. Ray Deck. It's like, what the hell is Ray Deck? But then if you really think about it, Ray Deck is cedar spelled backwards. How much do you want to bet there's no walnuts on Walnut Street? $10, $100, $1,000. On Orange Grove Avenue in the city of Orange, in Orange County, would you believe, not a single orange tree. Do you think this is the way to the historic adobe? Bluebirds are cavity nesters, so they need old trees with holes in them to survive. Looking around here, don't see many old trees. Do you think there are any bluebirds here? Many of these tract home subdivisions were developed in the late 1970s, and here's one of the developers, G. Lewis Company. I looked up G. Lewis on the internet, and it turns out that the G stands for Goldie, and she was married to Ralph Lewis, and together they founded a development company in 1955. That's the same year that Disneyland opened. And if you go on their website, they have a video, and it shows the history of the company. And the first scene is Ralph and Goldie standing in front of one of the houses they built with a street sign, and on the street sign it says Ralph and Goldie.
As much as Ralph and Goldie enjoyed naming streets after each other, they neglected to acknowledge that these places already had names for thousands of years. When the Spanish first explored this area, they encountered indigenous communities everywhere. These communities had their own lifeways, languages, and place names, such as the local villages of Hotucnga, Totabit, and Pasbenga. Even though the Spanish were visiting immigrants, they decided to force their own lifeways, language, and place names upon the people in the land. This colonial tradition has continued to the present day. As it turns out, I'm descended from immigrant and indigenous ancestors who were involved in the early history of this region. My 8th great-grandfather was Pablo Antonio Cota. On Thursday, July 27, 1769, Cota and the rest of the Portola expedition halted after 3 leagues' travel near an arroyo of running water. It was given the name of the holy apostle and patron of the Spains, Santiago, in what is now the city of Orange, near the intersection of East Chapman Avenue and South Yorba Street. Is it a coincidence that Cota arrived on the exact date of my birthday during the naming of Santiago Creek 250 years ago? Furthermore, my 8th great-grandmother was Maria Rosa. 11 days before Christmas in 1783, Maria Rosa, an 11-year-old orphan girl from Swahil, reportedly the largest village on Santa Cruz Island, became the first person from the Channel Islands to be baptized and only the 27th Chumash person to arrive at Mission San Buenaventura. Is it a coincidence that I investigated the effects of colonization at the intersection of Chumash and Juaneño 214 years after the death of my Chumash great-grandmother? Was I destined to pass on these stories from birth? I called a representative from the city of Orange to find out why an entire tract home subdivision featured streets named after different indigenous tribes from all over California. She did not know why, and further explained that the historic records pertaining to real estate developments from the 1970s were spotty. I asked if she could do a little research for me and call me back. She left a message on my machine a few days later.
No new messages. All message playback.
Hi, this message is for Joel. We spoke about your interest in that tract off of Taft and Cannon that had where the streets were named after Native American tribes. I was able to find the tract map for the development. Looks like it was developed by A.R. Builders. It's signed by Richard J. Aubrey, A-U-B-R-E-Y, who is the president of A.R. Builders. The signature on the tract map looks like it's from 1973. Thanks.
Unfortunately, I may never obtain the full story because Richard Aubrey passed away 20 years ago. He did own AR Builders for 30 years, but whether or not he had a reason for naming all those streets, I may never know. Some may argue that these street names represent a meager effort to preserve fragmented bits of history. But, without any physical or cultural context, do these street names really mean anything to the multiple generations of transitory residents, or the endless stream of commuters speeding by every day?
Why we all still mowing the grass? If we keep this up, we're gonna burn our ass, baby. Stop playing the game. Why we all still spraying the plants? If we keep this up, we're gonna lose our chance, baby. Stop playing the game. 'Cause now is the time when we stop the insanity. 'Cause there ain't no time until we realize it's you and me, you and me, you and me. Why we all still blowing the leaves? If we keep this up, we're gonna kill the trees, baby. Stop playing the game. Why we all still paving the street? If we keep this up, we're gonna burn our feet, baby. Stop playing the game. 'Cause now is the time when we stop the insanity. 'Cause there ain't no time until we realize it's you and me, you and me, you and me.